Hey, this is Chris Cook with Be Great, and you're listening to the No Playbook podcast.
Yeah. Hey, so this is a little bit of a different episode. My name's Casey, and usually on this podcast we feature the, athletes, coaches, and experts that help to make sports and fitness such an important part of life here in the Southeast. But today, well, actually, maybe Chris does qualify as an expert for mental health and motivation for athletes, that kind of stuff. Chris Cook, he was a college basketball player who really had to fight through some major health issues as a young kid. He kept his focus on his goals, and now he's changing lives with his Be Great brand. Chris joins the podcast today to talk about his journey, and as he puts it, it's his goal to inspire someone with this episode today. I also really enjoyed when we kind of realized together that he played college basketball in the really small town that I grew up in called Wilson, North Carolina. I lived there till I was almost 17. That was fun. I'll get right to it after this. Hey, if you're a middle school or high school athlete, and you've got dreams of playing college athletics, make the whole process much easier on yourself by downloading the new Recruit Me app. They're a new sponsor to the show, and I'm really grateful to have them.
Recruit Me puts the recruiting process in your hands. Most student athletes wait for college coaches to discover them, but coaches are busy and don't always have the time to find them. Recruit Me allows you to build an online profile to share directly with college coaches and is designed to help you enter all of the information coaches want to see. Your stats, your highlight videos, your academic information, your social links, and more. Plus, our team is here to make sure that your profile stands out with personalized suggestions. With over 25,000 coaches in our database, our premium plan gives you access to D1, D2, D3, and NAIA coaches across the country, and more importantly, gives them access to you. Enter your schedule of games and tournaments to let coaches know when and where you're playing so they can come out and watch you shine. Then communicate with interested coaches via our chat feature. When it comes to recruiting, don't make coaches research you. Do the work for them. Get started today at the Recruit Me app, on the web, and in the app stores.
At D1 Training, what we do is in our name. Our D1 athletes become D1 athletes. Whether it's Los Angeles Angels pitcher Ben Joyce, high school soccer national MVP Brindley Murphy, or first-round NFL draft pick Cole Strange, we help all athletes reach their full potential. Five-star training system comes straight from D1 strength and conditioning programs, and D1 has trained over 2,000 professional athletes. Many of them started as young as 7 years old. Check out D1Training.com to learn more about their facilities in Hardin Valley and Sevierville, and coming very soon to Maryville and the Tri-Cities.
Hey, man.
What's going on, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We're all good.
Let's go. Let's get it.
How are things?
They're going really good. Really good. I just got back from Gatlinburg. I took my little brother up there for kicking camp. It's called Cole's Kicking Camp. So we had that camp, and I had to, take him up there, and so going good though. Everything's going good. How's everything with you?
Right, is your brother, he's a high school kicker around here?
Yeah, he kicks at Catholic. He's not my biological brother. I call him my little brother. His name's Tyler Dorn. He actually trains at D1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's good, man.
so I was with him this weekend. I took him up there, and we hung out and stuff, and made some great connections up there, and it was fun, man. It was awesome.
That's great. Gatlinburg is so beautiful, but there's just every now and then, if it's this particular week in summer when it's like hitting a real peak around Christmas time, and like that's like an anxiety attack thinking about Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
Just
No,
that
it is.
traffic.
Dude, the traffic was garbage. Like no one knows where they're going. It's like, are you going left or right? It's the concept of traffic doesn't change. If you're at the light, you know you're going left, get in the left lane and go left. Like
Yep.
I'm like, it can't be that complicated.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir, man. I feel you on that. So, I was just talking with Devin a little about you because I don't fully know your whole story. Like I know you played some ball, you were a great athlete, and you went and played college ball, and then you sort of transitioned into being a motivational, inspirational type speaker. But how did that transition happen?
So I actually, it's a funny story. I met Devin when I was like 14. So my like I call him my older brother. He used to train with Devin when Devin had next level. And so I actually got connected with him. But man, it was funny because I played golf since I was 3 years old. Like like that was my first love. That was something that I was so inspired by because, watching someone like Vijay Singh and Tiger Woods, like those guys look like me, and I'm like, okay, if they can fit in that game, I know that I can too. So, I played that in middle school all the way sixth grade. Yeah, sixth grade. I was cut all through middle school of basketball. Never made the basketball team in middle school. So I was cut. And it's a funny story, man. I didn't really start playing organized basketball until I was 14. So I didn't really playing out in the park, playing in the big, the playground like that, that was cool to me, but I never thought about, jumping out there and playing organized basketball. And my dad was like, dude, we're signing you up for organized basketball. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. And he's like, no, you're going to do it because it's going to be good for you and it's going to help you and it's going to nurture you and, to being a man. And the coach that I had was Coach Kessler at the time. His name was Chris Kessler. He was the coach at West High School. And so it was funny because I was actually supposed to go to Fulton. We actually lived in North Knoxville. Like I could have walked to school. I lived that close to Fulton High School. And my dad, his job changed, so we ended up moving to West Knoxville. So I ended up at West High School. I did 4 years there. So yeah, that's when I really started playing organized basketball. And then go on to that, I went up to Rome State. I played at Rome State Community College right here in Harriman, Tennessee. So I did that. And funny story, I went up on a tryout. Like, and I'm just like, okay, if I make it, I make it. Cool. If I don't, it's just like, I've only been playing this game for like 4 years. So it's not like I have like no expectation of making the team. And I'm just like, all right, well, let's give it everything we got. So I ended up spending 3 years up there. I redshirted my first year because I'm still like getting acclimated to the game of basketball. Like I'm just an athletic freak. So it was like for me, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm supposed to be on the court. So it was like it was all learning curve, man. And it was frustrating at times. It was great at times. And
Actually, to
yeah.
that real quick, if we could pause, I want to not skip over you starting at 14. Like in the ninth grade, how are you playing when you've never lined up on a foul line after somebody's
Yeah.
taking some shots? Like, what is that like learning the sport really like on a shiny floor?
I mean, it was one of those things where it was like for me, it was like, what am I doing here? It was like one of those, but it was like I studied the game so much, and Dwayne Wade's my favorite player and Kevin Durant. And, I wanted to mold my game after those two guys. But as time went on, like it was funny, man, because in my seventh grade year going into eighth grade, I went from like 5'9" to 6'1". And then from that point, I never stopped growing. And so getting on that shiny court, man, it's just like, okay, you're tall, you're a lone kid, just go play. It was one of those things where my dad was like, just play, man. Like you don't know what's going on, just have fun. And it was different, man. It was definitely different from swinging a golf club to shooting hoops oh man, it was different.
Were you like getting called for hard fouls? Because that's the way
Oh
it
yeah.
was.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I fouled like crazy because I didn't know. And then I found out Coach Kessler was like, dude, you only got 5 fouls, bro. Like, and I'm at like 4 in the first quarter, and he's like, dude, you can't do that. And I'm just like, oh my God. So yeah, it was a huge learning curve for me from, like I said, swinging the golf clubs to playing basketball.
Yeah. I think that certainly speaks to your resilience, though, sticking with it and I mean, making it a
Yeah.
college ball even.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, once I really after my freshman year, it was one of those things where, I got to the point where I was like, this is what I want to do kind of, the rest of my life. And my sophomore year coming in, like I sat on the varsity bench. Like I took it to the ultimate level, like I trained, this is no lie, man. Once May ended, my freshman year, I trained like 3 times a day. I was just getting it because I'm like, dude, I want to be at the point where I play in college one day. Like that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play in college, and then whatever happens after college, like we'd go from there.
Yeah, man.
So
But so you're at Roane State.
yeah.
What happens after that?
So Rome State, this is so funny. So I'm looking at your questions, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, oh my goodness, like I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I know God's gonna lead me to say the things I need to say because I'm like my whole goal is to inspire someone with this episode. And it's funny because I finish up at Rome State. I get my general studies because I didn't know what I wanted to do as far as my degree going to my 4-year school. So funny thing is I played for Coach Nesbitt, Randy Nesbitt. He was the coach and athletic director at the time. And then when I ended up at Barton, Coach Zimmerman played for Nesbitt too in the 90s. So it was like everything was connected. So it was funny, man, because I actually, I say this, I tell this story to everybody. And it's because one of those things where it's like the resilience, the determination, and the fact of never giving up. And the biggest thing is you never know who you're inspiring or who's watching you. So I'm at the camp. I go to a camp and I spent $300. Coach Nesbitt gave us $150 for our hotel, and then another $150 for food and the camp and stuff, right? So I went to this camp. It's called the JUCO Showcase. It was ran by Corey Black at the time, and it was in Atlanta. And funny story is I didn't have the greatest career at Rome State. Like I wasn't no like stellar player because I'm 5 years of playing basketball. I'm still learning everything. Well, at this point, it's probably like 7 years since I've been playing. And so I go to the camp, and it's funny because the guy Corey Black, he posted me as a player to watch, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm definitely not a player to watch, but I'll run with it. It sounds good, because I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my numbers at Rome State, like, dude, I did nothing at that school. Like, you go back and look at Chris Cook's stats, like I was just a guy on the bench that was there. So I go to the JUCO Showcase, show out. And man, I was just dominating. Like it was just everything was just clicking at that point. And I'm like, okay, this is what I was here to do. And it hit that moment, and I tell people this story all the time, man, is you never know who's watching you. And it was funny because I'd never seen Coach Zimmerman. The whole time I was there, I was seeing, it was Tennessee State there, it was few, Division II schools. I had a few schools reach out to me that were NAIA. Never seen Coach Zimmerman. So, and I tell people this, man, that $300 turned into $45,000 four-ride scholarship to Barton College.
And I would love to hear from Corey Brown. What did he see to make him decide to add you on the players to watch?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Truthfully, I have no idea.
That would be cool.
I never really asked him. Coach Black, I never asked him. It was just one of those things where I was like, and I prayed to God. I said, whatever's supposed to happen is supposed to happen. Allow your will to be done. And when I got down there and then I seen it on Twitter and I'm like, player to watch. Like me, the guy that literally had like no stats at Rome State. Like you Google my name, the first thing that comes up is B Great. That has nothing to do with basketball. Yeah. And so I turned.
Well, I also want to share a moment that you and I shared at Joshua Dobbs camp. Was it? No, it was at TK's camp.
Yeah, TK's camp. Yeah.
When you, I asked where'd you play ball, and you were kind of like, you probably haven't heard of it. And then you said Barton College, because I lived in Wilson, North Carolina, until right before I turned 17 years old. We moved here to Maryville when I was in the 11th grade. And yeah, I lived in Wilson my whole childhood.
I mean, when that moment when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, no one really knows where Wilson is. Like, this is what I say to everybody. I'm like, it's 45 minutes east of Raleigh. Just keep going. You'll see the sign that says Wilson, North Carolina. And when you told me that, I was just like, this is amazed because I'm like, most people don't, know where that area is, or they go, oh, is that where Greenville is? ECU, East Carolina? Or is that where, it's very rare that people know where Wilson. And for you to grow up there, man, I'll be honest, I was actually there in June. So I went back for June. Barton, they did a story on me. So it was.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they did a story about what I'm doing with Be Great now and stuff like that, man. Wilson's changed, man. You wouldn't even recognize it if you went back.
Yeah. My grandparents lived there for a long time, but I haven't probably been in maybe it's been over 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
definitely different.
and describe it to people. They're like, oh, so is it close to Raleigh? You can drive there, but it's not super close. Oh, so it's close to the beach? No,
No.
you're still a good like 90 miles or 100 away from the beach. Like, so what is it?
Yeah.
I was like, picture a tobacco field,
Yep.
and then a town is right there. That's pretty much
Literally.
it. The
Yep.
minor league baseball team when I was there, it was literally called the Tobs, and their logo
Dude, they're
was
still
a
there, bro.
tobacco leaf.
Yes. They're still there. The times are still there. That is so funny.
Um,
Oh
but talk
man.
about Be Great, man. You've transitioned into Be Great and built a real brand. Like I want to know kind of what led you from that basketball career into starting this, kind of how and why did you do this?
Yeah, so it's funny, man, because one of the things I never thought about was building a brand. It was like basketball was my love. Once I finally found that love and I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to do something in basketball, whether it's coaching or I want to be a trainer. Like I want to do something within that rim. And I had a moment in September 2020, when COVID hit. I was actually living in Los Angeles. So funny story is I actually tried out for the Stockton Kings, which was the Sacramento Kings G League team when I was in California, and that was 2019. So I packed literally 3 bags in a drawstring bag, and I'm on a flight, and I'm heading to California to go pursue, my dream of playing professional basketball. And COVID hit, so LA shut down. So I'm looking on my Snapchat, and I'm like, dude, everybody in the South is living. Nobody has no mask on. Like the weight rooms are open, the gyms are open. And I'm just like, what are we doing out here? And September 2020, I sat in that apartment and I asked myself, that question is, Chris, who are you? What do you want to create for not only yourself, but when you have your family one day? And I've had this idea since I was 14. So I was chasing a basketball dream. I was running from my calling my whole life because, like I said, I was so focused on basketball. And but the story really started 26 years ago, man. I'll be honest with you. It started 26 years ago. I'm 28 now, and I used to have epilepsy, and I had a seizure that actually left me brain dead for 10 minutes. So the same thing I tell people, just to put it in context, the same thing that happened to Damar Hamlin was the same thing that happened to me. Uh, I was on oxygen. I was on life support when I was 2 years old from the epilepsy. And that's really where the story started, man. Like, I just wanted people to see that no matter what, like, you can be the greatest you. And being the greatest you is a marathon. It's not one of those things like, I'm not going to figure out who I am and being the greatest me tomorrow or today. Like, it's a lifelong journey. And, Be Great is it's an all inclusive media company, from my podcast to my social media to my blog, to my merchandise. Like it's all about the message. And, like the message is just, showing others how to strive for the greatness within themselves, because, like I always tell people, my story was written off 26 years ago. The doctors told me I wouldn't be here. They told me that, if I was, I'd be a vegetable the rest of my life. And I'd have to be in a wheelchair, man. Someone would have to push me around and feed me and all types of stuff. And so I had another episode that, not a seizure this time. When I was 14 to 18, I used to have to get ultrasounds on my heart. They were trying to see if I had Marfan syndrome, which is a super rare disease where your valve and you grow extremely, like you get, long fingers. And like I said, I grew from 5'9" to like 6'1" in a summer. So which was super, super rare. So for
Painful,
every
I
six
bet.
months. Yeah. So it was, dude, my knees and my back killed like crazy. And so from 14 to 18, I used to have to get ultrasounds. And that's where the whole idea of Be Great really, really originated from. Uh, I used to always say, and I'm just like, dude, just be the greatest you. And, whatever that looks like within your own definition, don't focus on what the other definitions of what other people have for being the greatest them. And so it's funny, man, because if you're diagnosed with Marfan syndrome, here we go again with a trauma episode. Is they give you a year to 2 years to live. And every time I got on that table, man, I get the ultrasound. I'm just looking at my mom and dad, and I'm just like if I get diagnosed with this, like I'm not going to see these people within 1 or 2 years.
How
So I
old were
mean,
you? I'm sorry.
I was 14. I was
Okay.
14 to 18. I used to have to go every 6 months and get ultrasounds on my heart. And so yeah, man, that's really where Be Great originated from. So I do everything inspirational. I got my Be Great motivational Mondays. That's where I send you an email every Monday just to get your week started. We got Be Great Fridays. That's where you wear your merchandise on Fridays and you share with other people. And then what is it? What else we got? It was
There's a lot
something
of
else
great
I was.
merch.
Oh,
That's for sure.
yeah. So and then it's a lot of great merch. You got the merchandise, and then the biggest thing, man, is my pops. He always pushed me to get myself trademarked. So the logo and the Be Great, it's a trademark, so I own it. And that was one of the things my dad always pushed me on when I was a kid. Is like, dude, you got to own something. Have ownership in something, whatever that is. Like, own it. And so yeah, man.
That's so cool, man. And I see the stuff a lot, like people online. So you've clearly done some like NIL stuff with some outstanding athletes in this area.
Yeah.
That's been a great opportunity. Jumping on that as TSSAA's past that. What has that experience been like working with some of those kids?
It's been amazing, man, because one of the things that I look at from my own journey is how can I help these kids from my NIL family? The idea really came from me and my dad. He was like, how can you help the next athlete, realize that they're more than an athlete? So for me, I was like, okay, let me figure out ways that I can, give tools to these kids from the things that I've learned, to how I can pour in their life and give them tools as far as, one of the things that I want to do next with my kids is I've already told them this is I want to do them camps, to where they can have their own camp, like what we did at TK's camp, and because you never know when your career is going to end, but I want them to have a necessary tool that they can have the rest of their life. You know what I'm saying? So the NIL experience has been amazing. The reach that it's reached and the people that's followed the whole Be Great journey and my athletes that I have. And it's funny, man, because this year I actually launched Be Great commercials. I did a commercial with Reese Pride. He's one of my basketball players. And then I did another commercial with Hunter Ogle. He's going to Mars Hill. Well, let me go back. Reese is going to Covenant College. Hunter Ogle, he's going to Mars Hill. He's going there to play football and power lift. So he's a two-time athlete. And then my last one I just did was with Jet Morrell. He's going to Rome State to play golf. And so we got Be Great commercials now. That was one of the things where I wanted to highlight the athletes and what they're doing and not really have me in the picture all the time. And I wanted to bring exposure to their names and what they're doing and who they are and where they're going. So, dude, it's been an amazing experience, though, man. Seriously.
You are in like the frame, I guess, when you're doing a lot of the stuff like the speaking. Do you just speak to teams and individual athletes, or is it like corporate speaking and other kind of ventures as well?
Yeah, so right now I'm in every avenue. I'm speaking to athletes, I'm speaking to high schools, colleges, I'm speaking to corporations. The last few that I did, I spoke at Barton College. Spoke there, and then I spoke at last year I did Pilot Headquarters. I spoke to their team. I've spoke at Calhoun's. I mean, there's I've spoke at West High School, Alcoa High School. So, I network around in all those areas, and I put myself out there and put myself in a vulnerable state and just open up like a book, man.
Yeah. I sure love the Motivational Monday stuff and just a lot of the posts that you have up there because they're not very long. It's just something real quick, just to give you a little shot of adrenaline for the day. But who motivates you, Chris?
It's funny that you say that. I was thinking about that question as I was driving today, and and I was sitting there and I was thinking, and I said, who really motivates me in my life has to be my mom and dad. And the reason I say that is because my mom and dad have never given up on me. My mom could have pulled that plug 26 years ago. I mean, and in that moment, that's where it showed her resilience that, my son's going to be special. And that's what she always told me. My dad always told me, son, do it this way, do it that way. So they always gave me the example. I mean, I always seen what it, having a dad that showed up, been there for me. I tell my dad all the time, he's my hero. Like he really, my mom, she did what she had to do in that moment. But my dad, like, I mean, from him being there my whole life and really just pouring into me and showing up in my life, man, my dad, I mean, there's been multiple times that he could have just walked out and gave up, but he never has. And to this day, I go to him for everything. The simple advice, it could be the dumbest question. My dad would be like, dude, do it this way or do it that way, or I think this should be the way you should do it. And yeah, it's right. It's definitely my mom and dad that motivate me, man. They push me to be great, So
Yeah. Are they
yeah,
still around here?
yeah. My parents are still around here. Yeah, they live in East Knoxville.
This is a strange question, but have you ever watched the show Parks and Recreation?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about? Amy Poehler, Rob Lowe.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's a character, actually, his name is Chris, and it's Rob Lowe. So super famous
Okay.
actor, but the whole point of the show is he's like, he's comically beat and optimistic, and he
Yeah,
does a great job at it. But it's like part of the joke is that no matter what you say, he is always in a chipper mood, and it's
yeah.
really funny. Anyway, he's asked, why are you so positive all the time? And he says, when I was a baby, my parents were given the diagnosis that I had just a few weeks to live because of a rare blood disorder. Somehow here
Wow.
I am 50 years later. So I've chosen to every week take those week by week and just really appreciate each one. It's funny hearing that your story reminds me of that TV show, but it landed, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely did. I mean, hearing that, that's just kind of how I live my life, man. Like I tell people all the time, like I literally died 26 years ago. So for me to be on this stage right now speaking to you, like I wanted to tell you, I wanted to give you your flowers in this moment. You know what I'm saying? Because like tomorrow's not promised. It's one of those things where it's like I'm grateful for you, Casey, for just even giving me this space and giving me this opportunity to, to be on here and tell my story and speak about what I'm doing. And who knows who this is going to reach?
Yeah.
I have no idea who it's going to reach, but I just wanted to say that I'm grateful for you, man. So thank you so much for really,
You got
pouring
it,
into me
man.
and
I'm
having me on here.
sure thing. I'm so happy to have you on. And something that means a lot to me is kind of mental health in sports, and that's something that you speak about a lot, and
Yeah.
taking time to love on yourself. So that's a message that I'm glad to have you on to help us kind of spread that is important, and it's not taboo like it was,
No.
ages ago.
Yeah. Right. I think that was one of the biggest things for me is my mental health wasn't always the greatest, because for me, I grew up after my seizures, I grew up in special ed. I went through IEP classes, K through 12. So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, growing up in special ed, like my self-esteem wasn't the greatest. And basketball was my escape. So I would say to any athletes that's listening to this, I mean, and this could go for anybody, is you have to, number one, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, and whatever form or shape that looks like of you taking care of yourself, if that means getting 8 hours of sleep, or that means getting 7 hours of sleep, but you're making sure you're getting your hydration, getting your water, getting sunlight, getting vitamin D, getting vitamin C, you have to get, you have to get all those things. And the next thing I would say is you got to pour into yourself. You're going to have days. There's days where I don't want to show up. I don't want to be great. There's days where I want to quit. I want to give up. I want to throw the towel in. But I know that it's people like you and other people that keep me inspired because you guys look at my stuff, you read my content, you appreciate what I'm doing. So the more that I'm pouring into me, the more I can pour into other people. And the last thing that I would say is, to the athletes is, man, everybody has an opinion, but the only opinion that matters is the one that you have for your own life. Everybody, we got, one of the people that inspires me to the uttermost is Michael Jordan. Dude could have quit his junior year. He could have gave in and threw in the towel in that moment. We would have never known who this man was by any means. But in that moment, with his first 6 years in the NBA, he never won a championship. He got beat every year. But his resilience to keep going and keep showing up, and that's one of my sayings, is just keep going. Because you never know when that opportunity is going to come. So for the athletes and the people that are listening, man, don't worry about people's opinions. Just focus on the opinion that you got for yourself. And guess what? In that opinion that you have for yourself right now, you can look in the mirror and change your own life. But it has to start with you. You can't find that outer, I guess, validation. One of my sayings that I have for myself too is I'm not focused on the world that's outside of me. I'm focused on the world that's inside of me. So like I said, all the athletes, listen, focus on the world that's inside of you because you're more than an athlete. And definitely take care of your mental health because that's all you got.
I'm actually making a note of that. I want to make sure I go back and I'll find this clip. That's great, man. 3 really quick questions.
Yeah.
2 of them are super quick. First one, what is your favorite or one really great sports memory that you've got, either as a player or even a spectator?
I got to say, as a player, man, playing at North Carolina. When Barton College in 2017, when we played at North Carolina, dude, it was so special. It was one of those moments where walking in there and seeing the guy that inspired me the most of my life, seeing Michael Jordan in the rafters, like, come on, man. Like that moment was so surreal. Like you can't even put that on you can't put that on anything. It was amazing playing in Dean Smith Arena. Like, these are guys that are legends that we'll never ever forget. And I'm on that court. So yeah.
That's a great memory. I would have never thought that Barton would have played there, but that's cool. Yeah. Really quick, tell people how they can find you.
So you can find me. My name is Chris Cook on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram as the chef_cook35, and my company you can find me at B_great_inspiration on Instagram. My email is chris@begreatinspiration.com. And then my website's begreatinspiration.com.
And last question, the most important one of this interview is, how great is Parker's Barbecue?
Dude, that's a good question. I've never had Parker's Barbecue.
What? You lived in Wilson, you never had Parker's?
No, never had. Oh, I take that back. I have had Parker's. I'm lagging. We got it catered one time. It's beast mode. It's great barbecue. These people in Tennessee think they know what barbecue is. They need to go to Wilson, North Carolina, and have some Parker's. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I've brought it back, and they're like, "Well, I don't get it. What do you mean you don't put barbecue sauce on it? You don't need to. It's moist. It's delicious. It's got everything in there. Yeah. It's so good. All right, man. Chris Cook, I am so grateful that you came on this. Thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir, my man. Be great.